Hello, children. So, we've now reached stage three, which is the late childhood, and it is also called the concrete operational stage. And so, we know the age range for this is, of course, 7 to 11 years. And in this 7 to 11 years, because essentially from 11 years onwards, starts your adolescence, which is the formal operational stage. So we'll be doing that after some time. But today, of course, in the concrete operational stage, we are going to be discussing about the shift from the intuitive thought to the logical thought, that how from early childhood, where children had this feature of intuitive thought, they've been able to make this shift from intuitive thought to logical thought. And where it's basically made up of all sorts of operations. So this concrete operational stage is consisting of operations which are mostly about the mental actions, which earlier were not present there. So anything which the child was doing physically could not comprehend it mentally. So basically here now they can very well perform these mental actions, so they can do something mentally also whatever they had done physically before. And they are also able to perform these reversible actions. And so what are these reversible actions? So an example of it is like is where a child was actually presented with these two identical balls of clay. So both the balls were exactly the same and in weight, size, and everything, and these balls were of clay. And one of the ball was taken and it was rolled into a long thin strip, and the other ball, of course, it kept exactly the same, and the other ball was not touched at all. But of course the first ball was taken and it was rolled up into a long thin strip. And then, of course, when a child of around 7 to 8 years, which essentially is the late childhood, or so to say, the concrete operational stage, was asked whether both the balls, I mean, both the shapes, one, of course, the ball and one long thin strip, they have the same amount of clay. So, of course, this question was asked. Why? Because the child can actually imagine that how the ball was rolled into this thin strip, and then again it was rolled into a ball. So this means that she or he can very well comprehend these reversible mental actions. So a child of 7 to 8 years will be able to imagine that it is but of the same weight. Actually it is but the same thing. And these are what are called the reversible mental actions. And so basically when you would ask a question to a child of 7 to 8 years old, they will be able to give answer to this, that yes, it is of the same weight, it is but the same clay which was initially the ball but now was turned into this long thin strip of the same clay. So they can very well imagine these reversible mental actions. This is one development that we see in the concrete operational stage. So, where is this development coming from, and why do we think, why is it that it was not there in the pre-operational stage? Because the children in that stage, which was essentially from 2 to 7 years, they were only focusing on one aspect. you know and if they would look at the essentially the long strip of clay, so they would only look at it as something that's long, and they couldn't have imagined that it was even turned into a ball before that. So they are focusing only on that one aspect. So they are not able to basically have this logical thinking at that time. But whereas when we talk about the concrete operational stage, it has definitely helped the child to focus on different characteristics and not just one aspect. And when they are looking at the different characteristics, which means they are able to appreciate the different ways of looking at things. and probably also the viewpoint of other people, and this actually means that their egocentrism has also started to decline, which was very much prevalent, in the pre-operational stage, or the age between 2 to 7. But we see that declining in this concrete operational stage, or the um, late childhood from 7 to 11. And now we also observe that the thinking of the child has become much more flexible, and they can think of other alternatives also when it comes to solving problems, and so basically they are able to develop this ability to be able to see relationships between the various properties of an object. But still, the ability of abstract thinking has not been developed in the concrete operational stage. That still needs to kind of get developed, because abstract thinking is basically where you are able to think of objects, principles, ideas which are not physically present. And so basically how it's a level of thinking where it's kind of not linked to the facts of here and now. So they are basically very manipulative ways of thinking, which is still not there in this age of 7 to 11, and so, for instance, if a child between 7 to 11 had to perform, probably had to solve an algebraic equation, or probably had to imagine lines of longitude or latitude, they probably will not be able to, because they do not have that kind of abstract thinking. Here, at the moment, they have just been able to develop the reversible actions, which has helped them decline the egocentrism, but they have not reached a level where their abstract thinking has also been developed. So, this was about the concrete operational stage. Thank you so much, children.